We come across many objects in our daily lives that have length, breadth, and height or depth. Take a look at the Earth, for instance. It resembles a sphere. While packing for a trip, have you ever noticed the shape of a suitcase or a trunk? That too has 3 dimensions. Similarly, the pyramids of Egypt, a waffle cone, a lawn roller, a football, to name a few, are all examples of 3-dimensional solid shapes. Welcome to the lesson on Introduction to Solid Shapes. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to count the number of faces, edges, and vertices of solid shapes. You will also be able to identify the nets of different solid shapes and draw isometric and oblique sketches of solid shapes. Look at this sheet of wrapping paper. Can we say it has length, breadth, and height? Not really. Paper has only length and breadth, and hence is classified as a plane or 2-dimensional figure. All 2-dimensional figures have only length and breadth. Now, take a look at this biscuit tin. Can we say it has length, breadth, and height? Yes, it does. 3-dimensional solid shapes have length, breadth, and height. Many solids that we see in our day-to-day life have 3 distinct parts, namely faces, edges, and vertices. Take a look at the 3-dimensional solids given here. The flat surfaces that form the skin of the solids are called its faces. The line segments that form the skeleton of the solids are called edges. In other words, 2 faces meet at a line segment called the edge. Finally, vertices are the points where 3 edges meet. Now, look at the square pyramid given here. How many faces, edges, and vertices do you think the pyramid has? We can see that it has 5 faces, 8 edges, and 5 vertices. Similarly, we can count the faces, edges, and vertices of other 3-dimensional figures. Did you notice that the 3-dimensional pyramid is actually made of 2-dimensional faces? The pyramid here has 4 triangular faces and a square base, which are all 2-dimensional figures. Let us now discuss another way of visualizing a solid object. A 3-dimensional shape can be visualized in a 2-dimensional form by creating nets. The net of a 3-dimensional solid is a 2-dimensional skeleton outline, which when folded results in the 3-dimensional shape. Take a look at the 3-dimensional cardboard box given here. Now, let's try to obtain the net of this box. For this, we just need to cut the edges of the box and lay the box flat. As you can see here, the flattened box is 2-dimensional. The reverse is also possible. That is, if we join or fold the open edges of this flat box, we will get the original 3-dimensional cardboard box with which we started off. The 2-dimensional surface on which we draw an image is usually flat. So when we try drawing a solid shape on a paper or a board, the images appear a little distorted. However, this is just a visual illusion. Now, Look at the picture of the cube given here. Note all the lines forming the cube are of equal length. Also, we are unable to see all the faces of the cube. In spite of this illusion, we can make out that the image is of a cube. Such skeletons of solids are called oblique sketches. But how do we draw such sketches? We can draw them using squared paper. Look at the squared paper given here. Let's try drawing a cube on this paper. The first step is to draw a square, which is the front face of the cube. We then draw the opposite face of the cube. This face should also be of the same size of the first square. Use the number of squares as a reference for maintaining the size. Now, join the corresponding corners of the square. And finally, the edges that cannot be seen need to be redrawn with dotted lines. The sketch is ready. Wasn't that easy? We can see that the front face and the opposite face of the cube are of the same size. Also, the edges appear equal, though we do not draw them of the same length. Let's try another technique to draw sketches. You see the dotted sheet given here? Such sheets are called isometric sheets. Do you remember seeing them? All of us must have solved puzzles on isometric sheets at some point of time. The isometric sheet divides the screen into small equilateral triangles made of dots. Using the sheet, we can draw sketches with measurements that agree with that of a given solid. Let's try drawing the sketch of a cuboid of length 3 units, breadth 2 units, and height 2 units. How do you think the first step is? You must have guessed it right. Finally, we will draw a rectangle of length 3 units and breadth 2 units. Then draw 4 parallel line segments, each of length 2 units, starting from the 4 corners of the rectangle. Finally, connect the matching corners with appropriate line segments, and the isometric sketch of the cuboid is ready. We will observe the sketch. We can see that the measurements are of the exact size, which is not the case with oblique sketches. Congratulations! You have successfully completed this lesson. In this lesson, you have learned to count the number of faces, edges, and vertices of solid shapes, identify the nets of different solid shapes, and draw isometric and oblique sketches of solid shapes.